Start us off.
All right. So, let's see. The best Nintendo console of all time, in my opinion, that's a really tough choice. Um, if I'm being totally honest, I'm gonna have to give it to the Switch,
Ah,
which I still don't own, and it's something I want to buy, but I have to have money for other things. But one day I will Switch.
Windy. You've used mine, so it technically,
Yeah, I have used yours many times.
yeah.
I
So
really like
you're not
it.
doing this just because you want one. So
No, I've been very impressed with it, and I think Nintendo finally listened to their fan base, and they took like the good elements from the Wii and the Wii U even, and they took that and they kind of combined that with much more traditional video game console elements. Thank God. Thank God. We get it. Motion controls are cool, but
oh, you
we're
can.
playing games.
There still are motion controls on the Switch.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's not all centered around that, but that is a part of it. See, they designed it where you can play games that are like that, or you play games, that are more traditional in terms of the controlling. And I've been seeing in Walmart and probably elsewhere that they came out with a GameCube style controller.
Yeah, they've come out with a
That,
bunch of different controllers. Like like I was playing it actually fairly recently with a friend, and you can use like GameCube controllers, N64 controllers,
like
bunch,
original ones or
yeah,
like
original
ones they
ones. And
really?
yeah,
How do you do that?
well, first, don't talk with your mouth full, son. That's
Sorry, Chief. I apologize. I'm a hungry Hendry.
you should apologize. Holy crap.
Sorry. Uh,
Anywho, we just I think there was like a converter that you had to plug into the Switch that would like uh allow you to like plug in controllers. Like I didn't
right.
actually do it myself. Some other friend had like a hookup where you can plug it into the
Huh.
Switch and then plug in any controller.
Okay. Who is this someone I know? I'm just curious.
No, it's Connor Baker who's part of this club I'm in.
Oh, okay.
But
Gotcha.
he
Oh, cool.
yeah, he's a pretty
That's
decent
pretty
bro
cool.
and
Sounds like it.
he brought his own like N64 controller to plug into a Nintendo Switch.
Hmm. Well, that's not what I was getting at. I was saying they actually made a controller designed for the Switch. So this controller, it's just basically a GameCube controller that goes directly to the Switch. It's not a GameCube controller, it's a Switch controller. The reason that's awesome is because many people, including myself, will say that the GameCube controller is one of the best designed game controllers of all time. It's so comfortable and God, it's just it feels so nice to use, and I
Indeed.
just love it. And
But back to the
on top of
Switch, I
that,
guess.
Switch. Well, that was the Switch.
Indeed.
Anyway, on top of that, we have, the graphics may not be up to par with like PC gaming, or if you have a good graphics card, or PS4, Xbox One, but
The Switch?
yeah. Now, Nintendo's never been well, at least not nowadays. They're not as graphic focused as Sony and Microsoft are. Nintendo has always been more about giving you a better gameplay experience, which I've always admired because you can have a game with beautiful graphics and visuals, but if the gameplay sucks, it's like, what's the point? It's like looking at artwork
Yeah,
generated by computer hardware.
yeah. I mean, Nintendo's mostly like, especially nowadays, since like I guess the GameCube or whatever, they've been focused on like
Yeah, I think that.
technology, the hardware, not necessarily the software.
Well, the graphics is more in the hardware, but I get what you're saying. You're right.
Yeah,
They focus more on the playability.
yeah. However, I will say that the Switch has been like the graphics are like a ton better than the Wii. I mean, holy crap! Like
Oh,
Mario
yeah.
has like
You remember
Mario's
when
hair like
that was
moves and all that when he
2000s?
runs
Yeah,
in Super
I
Mario
think it
Odyssey and all that.
might have done that on the Wii. I can't quite remember.
The textures are more.
It's
I do you know?
definitely not on the game.
Yeah, the textures are like a ton better. Like
Hmm.
there's a I don't know what it was, but there's like something new on like Super Mario Odyssey that's like textures between different hair that Mario has on his face and head and all that, and different textures with like his hat and all that. It's a lot better. It's more clear. It's more like it's just this is the best. This is the
They
best
did well.
Nintendo has ever done, honestly.
I agree. And I was gonna say, you kind of took the words out of my mouth there. With that being said, the Switch's graphics are actually impressive anyway. It's not like they're bad. They're just not quite as good as the competition, but they're still, you know, very, very good. And, you have to also consider that the Switch can also be a portable console, like a handheld.
That is also true. Probably
And
because of the success of the DS.
right, and they still make the DS, which is
Except
well the
now it's 3DS or 2DS.
3DS slash 2DS. 2DS is for people that want to be cheap or for kids that aren't old enough to have eyes that can handle that. That is a thing. Apparently, if you're
Ooh, it's too awesome for my eyes.
Caillou needs glasses because he looked at the 3D graphics and it hurt and it damaged his vision.
Whoa! It's like going through the monolith in 2001: A Space Odyssey. Whoa!
Anyway, the last two things I'll say about the Switch are, given that it's not only portable and you can play it on your TV and the graphics are still very good, the games come on little SD cards. That's what blows my mind the most is that, for games that are just on SD cards, they look very, very good. Although, granted, you know, the
They've
what's the
gone
word?
back to cartridge gaming, not necessarily
Yeah,
disc.
it kind of. I was gonna say that storage medium doesn't necessarily dictate how the game's gonna be. It's not like if you have a cartridge and a disc that can hold the same amount of data on them, that one's gonna look better than the other. It's just what can hold the most data. And I'm surprised because most of these console makers went away from cartridges to save money. But, Nintendo's going back in that direction with these SD cards, which are, in a sense, it's very similar to an old school game cartridge. And it's really tiny. And, of course, it loads instantly because there's no mechanical aspect of it except for, you know, electrical connector pins touching each other for signals to go back and forth, and there's no spinning, no arm moving back and forth, no laser, none of that. And the final thing is, Mother of God Bobby, Nintendo finally, although they didn't do it directly themselves, but finally, there is a legal way to play the classic Nintendo arcade games on like a virtual console type of deal.
It's
Now,
a
let me
miracle.
hear me out here, because this is important. Some of you may be thinking, well, I can play Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. and Mario Brothers on the Wii virtual console or whatever. Yeah, but I'm not talking about just the games in general. Those are the NES versions, but on the Switch, you can play the actual arcade versions of the arcade games, like the same version of the game you find in the arcade cabinet, like I would have in my storage unit. So
Yes. Boom.
that alone has really sold me on the Switch because, you know, the only other way to play those games is through like MAME emulation, and that's not 100% legal. It can be, but it's very sketchy. But on the Switch, you can do it legally, and it's gonna work. You don't have to mess with making sure all the ROM images are in the right directories and all that crap, and making sure everything's where it's supposed to be, or else it won't work. And then there's compatibility issues. It's a mess. Switch is good. I will give an honorable mention to the Nintendo Entertainment System for saving the gaming industry in '85. It's amazing. I actually currently own 4 Nintendo Entertainment Systems. 3 of them are awaiting to be, sold on eBay for profit. Probably you can buy it one day. But then I have a personal one.
This is a paid advertisement for my eBay account.
For my eBay store. All right, I'll shut up now about the Switch. I got excited, as you can tell.
I will say as well, the marketing for the Switch has been just beyond impressive.
I like that
especially,
too.
Especially when in the beginning when it first got launched and all that, because for the longest time they weren't necessarily good with software or whatever, right? Like with gameplay.
No, they were good. I think you're getting things confused.
No, I mean they weren't focused on the hardware. They weren't focused on the software. They were mostly focused on the hardware. Like they weren't focused on the games necessarily. Like the games took a back seat, but the hardware was their main focus.
I think that is definitely the mistake they made with the Wii U.
Yeah, that
the Wii had great games on it. There were some phenomenal games on the Wii. I love.
Yeah, I mean they were phenomenal games on the Wii, but they were being licensed out to other game developers to make more focus on the secondary game developers or whatever.
Third party
or whatever, but
yeah.
The Nintendo was more focused on the hardware, not necessarily the software. Even though they did make some good games, it was not necessarily their focus. But when the Switch came out, it was one of their focuses was games and all that. The first two games that were made available for the Switch was Super Mario Odyssey, which not only is one of the best, not only is one of the best games, of the year or possibly in this decade, but it's one of the best Mario games ever.
Yeah, I will have to agree with you there. I think it's definitely of the decade of the 2010s. I'd say The best Mario platformer is Super Mario Odyssey. I would say it's better than Galaxy and Galaxy 2. I can't remember if Galaxy was before or after 2010, but it was really close.
Yeah, it's one of the best Mario games of all time, I think. Also, within like a month of each other, I think. Like the event, like Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild came out too, and that's like,
That's better than I thought it was.
yeah,
No, I'm not.
people think it's like people talk about that a lot more than they do Super Mario Odyssey, which I really don't think that's warranted. I think Zelda's a little overrated and Mario's kind of underrated, but honestly, they were like two fantastic games coming out as the Switch was coming out, which
Yeah,
is outstanding marketing. It's
they
like,
did a really good job. I totally agree with you on that.
yeah, it's kind of dwindled down a little bit, I think, the games,
Yeah, I'd
but
say so.
it's at least they got two fantastic games on this thing.
Actually, no. I mean, there's still, you can get Fortnite on the Switch.
Well,
That's pretty cool.
well, yeah, but like
uh, Mario Kart
games
8
you can
Deluxe.
buy, I think, and are like specifically like targeted toward the Switch are kind of
Uh,
dwindling. I haven't seen a lot of marketing for the Switch, honestly,
I think
since
it's they had the marketing, they got the success and the numbers, so now they can kind of enjoy the benefits of the successful sales and put that into development. And that's
yeah.
how we got the what is it, the Switch Mini or Slim or whatever they call it,
Oh yeah, that. Yeah,
which
I
is
mean,
still expensive. If I can get a Switch for like 200 or less, then I might snag it. I've been waiting for them to go down in price to buy one because I honestly don't play console games near as much as I used to for whatever reason. Probably because of the amount of homework I have. It's
anywho.
ridiculous.
So
So,
yeah, I would say the Switch. I would say like I don't know what they're gonna do about like the PS5 and the new Xbox coming out, which I think it's
yeah,
Series X, Xbox
yeah,
Series X,
yeah.
which is a stupid name, but anyway, I don't know what they're gonna do when those two consoles come out because the Switch came out fairly, I guess, within the time span of like the Xbox One and the PS4 coming out. Like it came
Correct.
out like it came out on the heels of when those two came out. So I don't know what they're gonna do now, but yeah, the
Hmm.
Switch is a good console. Actually, it's my number two, but
What
nothing
is
will.
your number?
Ah, I'm glad you asked. So the number one greatest Nintendo console is, to put simply, the N64.
Okay. Oh, that's not what I was expecting, but
Indeed. You know why
I
it's the N64?
it was not the first 3D graphics capable console, but it
No.
definitely helped popularize it.
Indeed. Also, it's got some of the best
Oh,
classic
yeah,
games
that's
on
the point.
on on this thing.
They were
Plus,
the ones that kind of innovated that, though.
yeah,
Like,
plus it's it's one of the last consoles that they were focused on making good games and
well, they did have similar though, but
not
yeah,
necessarily like the hardware. Like totally like almost 95% hardware, 5% software.
I'd say that would be the GameCube was the last one where they focus more on games because it's the GameCube is just a conventional console with a controller. It's
I guess
nothing
it
too.
was the GameCube was the beginning and the end. The N64 they still had everything just chugging along. Great hardware and fantastic software. Like
Yes.
GoldenEye 64, there was Super Mario 64, Mario Kart. My first game, my first video game of all time, Mario Tennis came out
Oh,
on the
yes.
N64.
You got Mario Golf too. That's
Mario
a good
Golf,
one.
I think that was my second game.
Any of the
'Cause
Mario games
I
in
remember,
64 are good.
yeah, I remember Mario Golf, but I specifically remember Mario Tennis. I used to play that in the dentist office.
Ah, okay.
So,
There you go.
yeah, the N64. Also, some of the best Star Wars games were first on the
That,
N64. And I like this
I
stupid battleship, whatever this new
uh,
Battlestar, whatever the
Battlefront. That's what you're.
Battlefront. Oh, there we go. I don't even know because I don't care. Because
Huh.
they keep on like advertising like $60 for the game, but then you have to pay for like patches, and I'm like, nope, I ain't paying for that.
It's the purpose.
Yeah, yeah. This no, I'm not gonna pay for like patches, but N64 Star Wars games, they were good and they were complete, and you only had to pay an upfront cost. There you go.
You're right.
It's the it's the best. It's the best. You can plug in more if your TV was compatible. People would like get all the. I know some YouTubers who used to like get old TVs and like a lot of like old N64 um consoles, and
Console.
they forgot the name there for a second, and they would like plug them all up, and then they would like have tournaments and all that in like people's garages, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's like awesome right there. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a fun thing to do, I suppose. Never tried it, but yeah, you're right.
yeah, there's it's just a ton of like great games, and it
Hmm.
was one of the and for a good long bit, it was the last cartridge Nintendo console up until
Well, the last
the Switch.
non-handheld. All of the handhelds have been cartridge based.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I know. I know.
Boom
Oh, I
roasted,
know.
I guess. Well, whatever.
Yeah, we're roasted, Chief.
I
Oh, yeah.
was roasted, I guess. Anywho, it's one of the last non-handheld consoles to have cartridges, and it used the power of 64 megabits to make just awesome.
No, no,
Duh,
no,
no, no, no, no,
no, no,
no,
no.
no, no.
Ladies and gentlemen, Slam is over here trying to act like the tech reviewer, knowing all the facts
All
and
right then, son. What was
things.
64 then? What was the 64?
Megabits.
That's what I said.
No. Oh no. It's just 64-bit technology. 64 megabit technology would be like if they called it uh like the Nintendo 64 times 10 to the what is that? 10 to the 6th, whatever that is.
Duh.
The N64 uh the N6400,000. There we go.
Yeah,
So,
you're right, I guess. Whatever. Anywho, the N64, that's my favorite console. Duh.
I agree.
I just
Oh,
roasted you with my electrical
Sten.
engineering degree in electrical
It,
engineering. Duh.
yes, it's a 64-bit technology. Uh, I can't remember if it's that the processor 64 bits or if it's the graphics or if it's both. Because I know the graphics are, on par with the PS1 and the Sega Saturn, but those are referred to as 32-bit consoles. So, let me look real quick because I'm curious.
Alright then, and after that you can tell everyone what's your least favorite Nintendo console.
Oh, I've definitely got one.
Alright, well we're all
It's
waiting.
everyone's least favorite, but so the N64 had a 64-bit processor. That's what it was. That's why they called it the 64-bit. But the FSB, I don't know what that stands for, is 32-bit. Huh, okay. Well, 64 refers to 64-bit processor, and now you know. And it's not
And
60.
now you know.
My God, the 64 megabit. Remember, it's the 64, not the N6400,000.
Alrighty then. Now onward to the least favorite console. So Hendry, why don't you tell us about your least favorite Nintendo console?
Actually, first, I apologize.
Oh,
64 megabits is 64 million. I cannot do math in my head. For shit. I still can't, no matter how many times I practice.
So,
Alright. It would be the N64 million. God, that would be impressive. Anyway, worst Nintendo console is the Virtual Boy. Hands down.
oh, so we're
I
going
have
we're going to accessories then?
no, we're not. You thought the Virtual Boy was an accessory?
It kind of is an accessory, but okay.
No, it's a standalone console. You see, that's the thing. You would think it was an accessory. You'd think it was like a Super Nintendo add-on or something by the looks of it, but no.
But no, it's not.
It's a standalone console which is actually more technologically capable than the Super Nintendo. And
Alright, well, if we're gonna go like that, then I figured out mine. So, alright. Continue.
so while they were waiting for development of the N64 and they kept having to push it back, they're like, man, the people want something new, so let's give them this. And it's very, very different. It's like having a Game Boy Advance, but imagine that it's 3D like the 3DS, but it doesn't hurt your eyes in the way that the 3DS does, but it hurts your eyes still. It's gonna hurt, and it'll probably hurt more in the end.
It's like virtual reality. Like their first thing to like virtual reality, right?
Yeah. That was during the big VR craze of the mid to late 90s, and
which sucked.
Yeah. It's basically a red pair of goggles that sits on a stand that you put on a table, and you have to lean over and look into the goggles, and that's the game screen.
Yeah.
And
there was like 3 games that that were like with this, or were there like 5?
There were more than 5. There were, I think, like 12 total.
Well, still a small number.
Yeah, you're right, though. Small game library. You know, it's funny. For such a horribly designed console, it has some good games. Like, Wario Land on the Virtual Boy is a damn good game. It's a good platformer. If you play it on an emulator, it's probably a great experience. The 3D won't quite work, but, you know, still. Mario Clash is like a 3D version of the arcade Mario Brothers. We got Mario's Tennis, not Mario Tennis, but Mario 'S, Mario's Tennis, which is a generic tennis game. We got 3D Galactic Pinball, which is funny because start the game is like, welcome to Space World, let's go. Something like that. We got, what else is there? Another cool one is a Red Alert or Red Alarm, something like, I forget what it is. Let me figure it out. Red Red Alarm, okay. Red Alarm is like imagine Star Fox but in 3D. Like it's actually got the cool 3D effect, like you feel like you're there. Um, but the problem with the Virtual Boy is, the graphics, while they look good for what they are, they're all black and red, not black and white, black and red, and it's like blood red. It's
Stings your
painful.
eyes.
It does after a while, it's one of those things where you can take it for a while, but there's a point eventually where it's kind of like, all right, this is starting to hurt. And it actually suggests to the players, like, the games will automatically pause so you take a break, which is funny. At least they were self-aware, but, people bought it and just, it was cool, but it was just not very ergonomic. It was too hard to play it, it's supposed to kind of be portable, but you can't play it on the go. Like, you can't play it in the car. It's not like it has a head strap or anything. It's just got the crappy stand, which the stand breaks and falls apart. Another common problem is you'll see scan lines, little lines that go across the display, and that's kind of annoying. And, because all this BS horse trash that I've mentioned, naturally, it didn't sell very well. They took it off the market, I think, less than a year after it was released. So, great games had some potential. I think if they made it where you could wear it without it being on a stand, and somehow it was in color, at the very least, if they picked a color that wasn't red, like if it was blue or green or something, I think people would have liked it a lot more. But the red color was really, really bright, and just the way that the 3D effect worked, it combined, it just gave literal headaches to people. So if you're a casual game collector, I wouldn't invest in one. This is one of those things where I would only buy one if you really are passionate about, the hardware, design history, and, the collectability of it, and you really love Nintendo. Like me. Duh. As a matter of fact, I have one, and as a little bonus, I think at the end of this video, we can have a clip of me playing my Virtual Boy, because it's hilarious to watch someone play a Virtual Boy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, Old Red, as I like to call it, and the only other benefit to it, or the only positive thing, is the controller. It had a very good, not quite GameCube good, but probably one of the top 5 Nintendo controllers of all time in terms of comfort. Is the Virtual Boy's on up there. It might even be second to the GameCube controller. It's a really good controller. It feels nice in your hand, and it's easy to use, and it's comfortable, and it's just another thing, like, had such good potential, and they screwed it up. As a matter of fact, Gunpei Yokoi, I think I said that right, the guy who made the Game & Watch and the Game Boy, after he designed this and it failed, he was so ashamed that he left the company.
Well, good, because he should be ashamed, because it sucks.
Yeah, he did some good stuff, though, but that might not have been it. He felt so bad. But, yeah, that's the worst Nintendo console. What's your worst?
Well, if we're going off of that, been a lot of Nintendo consoles. A lot of them,
Yes.
some of them even gone to do some trends, which is not good.
Yes.
They need to do their own thing or do it well. If they're going to do it at all. So my least favorite one is the 2DS. Why the 2DS, you may ask? Not the DS. There's a difference. Still there, son? Son? So, yeah. Not the 2DS. Not the DS. Because the 2DS is my all-time worst console. Not the DS. There's a difference
Oh,
there.
the Nintendo 2DS.
Yes.
I see. I see.
There's a difference there. Because what they did was I guess there was like a new 3DS that came in. I don't know. I don't remember when, but it was like 2011, I guess, or something like that.
Yeah. It was the 3DS XL, I think.
Yeah. And it was new, it was innovative, and I was like, "Oh, sweet." But the DS kind of took a little back seat. So now what they did was they revamped it to where it doesn't close anymore. It's just an open thing with two TV screens. They don't close it anymore. It's not compatible. It's not like, storage any like compatible anymore. It's really weird and
It
really
does.
stupid. It's just like a
Yeah,
big it's just like a box now.
it's bigger than even the original Game Boy.
Yeah, it's
I would.
stupid.
Yeah. I think it was a bit unnecessary considering it's really a 3DS that isn't 3D capable.
No,
And
not the 3DS, the
no,
2DS.
no, I know that's what the 2DS is a 2D only version of the 3DS.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And
Like I still think there's even like the 3DS XL. I think that still like closes and all that,
yeah,
like just storage compatible.
it
And
does.
and even then, you still have the choice of either like having 3D or non 3D.
Yeah,
The
you
2D
can
is just like
you can turn the 3D off.
yeah, like the 2DS is like completely stupid now. It's
I think the idea was it was supposed to be targeted for younger children so they wouldn't accidentally turn the 3D on and hurt their vision or something. But still, I think
I guess, but
a
it's still
smarter,
stupid.
a smarter move would have been like put on a 2D only mode for the 3DS where it disables the Switch and the kids can't turn it on. Like that would have
Yeah.
been a better solution, in my opinion, than to release a separate console.
Yeah, it's completely stupid now.
Yeah, kind of
It
strange.
defeats the purpose. Like the 2D, like the regular DS is still better because you can still play your games. It
Yeah,
closes. It's got all the buttons and all that. But now the newer 2DS, it doesn't even close anymore. It's like a big box. You can't even.
yeah,
It's just lost its like appeal, I
it's
guess.
yeah, it's kind of an oddball. I'll give it that. It's kind of I don't know. It's one of those weird things. It's kind of like the Game Boy Micro, if you remember that. Like although that at least was really tiny and you could fit it in any pocket and it was easy to carry, but
Yeah, it's
it was almost like why did they need to release that though? Because the screen was smaller and it
yeah,
was kind of like you already have the Game Boy Advance SP and the DS can play Game Boy Advance games, so
yeah. It's stupid and unnecessary, which is what
uh,
Nintendo things kind of are. Nintendo bad consoles kind of are. Like even the the Virtual Boy or whatever. Although that's not necessarily like, you know, unnecessary, I guess. They should have done it. They made it unnecessary by not allowing there to be like other games on there, I guess. You know,
Did- oh,
even with the 2DS or whatever, at least you can still play older DS games on there, right? Or
yeah, you can. It's
at
backwards. As far as
least
I know, it's
at least you
not.
can do that, but it's still like really blocky and stupid and it's a terrible design.
It is. It doesn't even. I've never held one, but it doesn't look comfortable to hold.
Plus, you can still play it on the 3DS, I think. So it's not even necessary. Like it doesn't have that 3D parts to it, but you can still play it. It's just
Yep,
unnecessary.
it is. It's just a cheapo version of the 3DS that doesn't have 3D. Plays all the same games, and it just is cheap.
Yeah.
Hate to put it this way, but it's like the Brian Hendricks cost saving version. Because he spends no money.
That's because he's a banker. But anywho,
Fair enough. He's definitely not a spender.
yeah, that's all I got on bad Nintendo consoles because I just hate the 2DS. I've always have, and I probably always will because it's stupid.
Yeah, it's definitely not my favorite either.
All right, well, I guess that's it for the 2DS, which sucks.
Yeah, I'm
The
afraid it's a bit of a midge.
it is the
Oh yeah.
baby console.
It's pretty much for the kids.
Indeed.
So